Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. The ongoing strike of the medics has really exposed the Ruto government, the lack of preparedness on how to deal with our civil servants. And if there is one person who has been exposed, is the CS that is dealing with that ministry, Madam Nakhumicha. Because as we speak, people are already questioning the legitimacy of her degree, and they really have a lot of question mark. There's this guy called Stephen Mutoro. Mutoro is saying that this is another Sakaja Johnson case. Alleged university that offered Nakhumicha's a PharmTech degree denies it offers online learning for the faculty, throwing the embattled MHCS into potential fraud of holding either a fake or illegitimate degree certificate. Then he's mentioning all these institutions that are supposed to investigate, and is asking, please confirm the authenticity of CS Nakhumicha's academic credentials. And of course, there's an excerpt there where allegedly this university is saying that unfortunately our faculty of pharmacy does not give any online education. I can't confirm either whether that finding is true or not. And then Dictator Watch is saying this: so Susan Nakhumicha has no degree. She lied to Parliament and the entire country that she earned one online from Aid University in Turkey. So will the EACC Kenya add her to the list of those fraudsters operating with fake academic credentials, or is she above the law? So you can see the questions. And this other guy, Goody, this guy is saying that Health CS Susan Nakhumicha, number one, is not registered with the pharmacy board. I don't know how true that is. And he goes ahead to say that the Turkish EEG university where she studied online does not offer online classes for the courses she studied. Number three, she does not appear in the JKUAT graduates list where she did her master's. And of course, you can see people are really casting aspersions on the legitimacy and the credibility of her academic credentials. This reminds me of the current Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja's case when he wanted to contest and his academic credentials were in question. And anytime I hear someone talks about an online degree, then question marks would always come, because there's always a problem. I don't know whether people tend to fake their degrees and using these online institutions. I remember during the vetting process, some ministers came up, and I would single out Aisha Jumwa, and Aisha was very honest. There were questions around why she got, was it a D or something, and she explained that she went to school under very tough circumstances, and it was by sheer luck that she even managed to complete her schooling. And so with that explanation, it was easy, because she didn't lie that I got this from which university, but she just said, had I gotten an opportunity that some of us got, I would have been somewhere. And so she was pardoned. But you also know that they could not reject what William Ruto had given them. Now for Susan, at a time when medics are on strike, people want to understand whether she really feels the pain of being in class for 6 years. Because for people who are studying medicine, as Sam Gituku was putting it, that they will go beyond a presidential term. When they get into an institution of learning as a first year student, when a president has been sworn in, then that president will complete his term before the person who enrolled to study medicine, completes his schooling. And so it's very tedious. They dedicate their time after that to look into our lives. Someone who's studying anatomy and all these things, you know, it's very difficult. So people want to understand, did she really spend time in class? Because when you spend the years that we are talking about, then you do understand the pain of being in class for 6 years, then you are also subjected to tear gas on the streets. That is number one. Number two, Kenyans would want to understand whether she is equal to the task, because such moments when medics are on strike, then we really need someone who can look at the government side and the side of the medics so that she comes up with the solution, not threats like I saw Johnson Sakaja threatening, the Nairobi doctors, because this function, the health function, is a devolved function. It was taken to the county government. Ruto's government is full of stuff that cannot deliver. He himself once told us that when he asks a question to his ministers or assistant ministers, he tends to know more about matters that are pertinent to their offices than they themselves. And he was concerned and worried that perhaps this is the reason why they don't achieve. When opinion polls were conducted on the faith and the performance of the ministers, Kenyans gave our ministers a D, with the exception of Kithure Kindiki, I think, who had managed to tackle the menace with the passports and ID and all that. But the truth is, these ministers are not performing, because most of them, apart from lacking academic credentials, they are politicians. They were rewarded because they stood with William Ruto. Some of them ditched Raila at a time when Raila needs them, because you look at somebody like Machogu, he vied for a gubernatorial position and he lost. He was rewarded. When you compare the shoes that the former education CS left vis-a-vis education Mr. Machogu, you realize that there's a big gap. And Kenyans are only but waiting to see what will happen. Sometimes back in a meeting, when William Ruto had a meeting with the CSS, I remember we were taken through a lot of theatrics where we were told that Kithure Kindiki and Moses Kuria had come late, and William Ruto was issuing some warnings, and people during that period, what we call reshuffling had been trending, because people thought William Ruto would even dare reshuffle. Yes, reshuffling happened because Moses Kuria was removed from one docket to the other. I remember Alice Wahome, but William Ruto cannot dare relieve anyone of their duties, because he's looking at 2027. And he knows very well, like Rigathi Gachagua has always explained, that these positions are held on behalf of the community. So if you're a lawyer, like I believe Susan is, she's holding that position on behalf of the lawyers, so that if you sack her, you relieve her, or you terminate her services, then the lawyers will be asking you why you did that. And since William Ruto is really busy, trying to seduce the lawyer land to vote for him in 2027, he cannot dare terminate her services. Even if she's found, guilty, he'll be sanitized. I remember the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission told us that about 3/4 of civil servants are using forged certificates, and he had even ordered that those who are using forged certificates should even return the monies that they have gotten during their period when they were working and they were paid. And people are asking, will Nakhumicha get to the, will her name also feature among those fraudsters? As it is, these are just but allegations, and I think they're calling upon the EACC and all the investigators, those who are concerned, to come up with a report. What do you think? Do you think there can be any other report apart from that she's clean? Do you think William Ruto would accept that he nominated someone whose academic credentials are below average? Those who vetted Nakhumicha must have looked at the certificates and they certified that she is qualified. In that confusion, we are only waiting to see how the CS is going to manage the strike thing, how she's going to maneuver so that they have an agreement with the doctors. The problem is this: once the doctors cast a doubt on your academic credentials, there will be no respect at all. What am the row? And then that will be the worst thing ever, because doctors are people who are learned and they would wish that they're being led by someone who is learned. This is the reason why William Ruto was very wise or cheeky. When he knew that he wanted to become the president of Kenya, he rushed very fast to get a doctorate degree. So today, when you search the most learned presidents in Africa, William Ruto's name features. When he's now dealing with doctors or teachers and professors and engineers, he also brags that he is a doctor. And for Nakhumicha, I only pray that she's not found guilty of this, because doctors, what are the row? The lack of preparedness by this government is something that overwhelms us, because William Ruto was on top of things. He had promised that he had a plan for the teachers, for the doctors, for every docket, that he was going to deal with them and give them the services that they need. This must be acted upon very fast, because people are already dying. The people who go to their hospitals, public hospitals, they can't afford private hospitals, and there are no doctors. We really need to think about this, because Nakhumicha and the other ministers, if they are sick today, they will go to private hospitals. Karen, Nairobi Hospital, where they can even be flown outside the country. But for the hustlers who voted for this government, the controversy, the stalemate, and the standoff between the doctors and the government does not help them. I wish the government would rush into solving this problem the same way they rushed with the housing levy that is meant to even deduct doctors of their money to give people affordable housing. And that is my take.